Good day, grade 10. This is functions, chapter 6, and we are busy with the parabola. This is the 16th of July. So the first example says draw the following graph. Y is equal to negative 2x squared plus 1. When they ask me to draw a graph, it's very important that I firstly imagine what this graph is going to look like. So I look at the a value, negative 2x, and I think, okay, it's definitely going to be a sad graph. And then the q value plus 1 tells me that it's going to move one place up. So I'm thinking it's going to be sad and have a turning point at 1. It's very important to first imagine it. Okay, then I draw a table, choose my own x values, negative 1, 0, and 1. And I get the y values negative 1, 1, and negative 1. Okay, then for the x-intercepts, remember I always have to write down the coordinates of the intercepts. The y-intercept can be read off from the q value. The y-intercept will be 1 in this case, but the x-intercepts I'm going to have to set y equal to 0, just like we did for the straight line graphs. Okay, so in the place of y I'm going to put 0. 0 is equal to negative 2x squared plus 1. The 1 goes over, it becomes negative 1. And then I divide by the negative 2. And I get a half is equal to x squared. To get rid of this squared, I'm going to get the square root on the other side. But please remember, always when I get the square root, I need to get the positive and negative square root of that number. So, the two coordinates of the x-intercepts, so look at our imagination graph. We're going to have two x-intercepts because I have a curve, I have a parabola. So the two x-intercepts will be at negative 1 over square root 2, 0, and positive 1 over square root 2, 0. If I put 1 over square root 2 into my calculator, I will get 0,70 something something something. Okay, so that is between 0 and 1 at about 0,7. Okay, so I'm going to put it on my graph somewhere there. So first I'm going to plot the point negative 1, negative 1 as in my table. Then at 0,7 I'm going to plot my 1 x-intercept. Then at 1 on the y-axis, my other x-intercept and the point 1, negative 1. Then I draw a curve with arrows on the ends and also the equation. I also have to write down the coordinates of the intercepts. The coordinates of the x-intercepts are already there, and then the coordinate of the y-intercept is 0, 1. Okay, that's the complete graph. Then the things that they can ask me about my graph is the domain, the range, the minimum or maximum, the axis of symmetry, and the turning point. Okay, so the domain is all real numbers, because remember the domain is about if I'm a little man walking on the x-axis, where will I find a graph? I will find a graph at from negative infinity to infinity. So that's all real numbers, or I can write it like that. The range, remember the range is when I walk on the y-axis. It's from negative infinity up to 1, because everywhere where I walk here on the y-axis I'll find a graph. But as soon as I get to 1, just above 1, I will not have a graph anymore. So it will be all the y values greater or equal to negative 1, or y is an element of negative infinity to 1. 1 included, block bracket. Then this says the minimum value, but it should say the maximum value. This graph only has a maximum value. The maximum value is y is equal to 1. Then the axis of symmetry is at x is equal to 0, just like all the parabola graphs in grade 10. We'll have the axis of symmetry x is equal to 0, or the y-axis. The turning point, they can also ask me, is at 0, 1. Alright, please remember We always have to write all the intercepts with the axes, but sometimes we don't have x-intercepts. Like for instance, when I have a graph that is smiling and it moved up, like for instance y is equal to 2x plus 1, it's smiling and it moved up, then I will not have x-intercepts because there's the x-axis and there's the graph above it, so I don't have x-intercepts. Or when I have a sad graph that moved down, like y is equal to negative 2x minus 1, sad graph moved down, then I will not have any x-intercepts. But I'll always have a y-intercept, and that is at the turning point. I'll have a y-intercept. Alright. Now for your homework, this exercise 2, you have to sketch some graphs. Please do not sketch the one with x plus 3, it has to be x plus 1, like here in the question. Sketch the graphs of y is equal to x squared minus 4 and y is equal to x squared plus 1 on the same set of axes, and then determine the coordinates of the intercepts. And the same for number F. Just draw the graph and determine the coordinates of the intercepts. If you can now press pause and do the exercise, and then when you are ready you can come back and we can mark it together. Okay, welcome back. So let's look at the memo of the 16th of July. First I draw the mother graph, y is equal to x squared. Then I draw the one that moved 4 places down and 1 place up. Okay, remember the q value at the end tells me where it moved. Then I have to determine the y-intercept and the x-intercept. Remember the y-intercept I can read off, it's the q value, negative 4. And the for the x-intercept I set y equal to 0. So then it's 0 is equal to x squared minus 4. Then I factorize that, x minus 2, x plus 2. So x is 2 or x is negative 2. The coordinates will then be 2, 0 and negative 2, 0. If I go and put that in on my graph, 2, 0 and negative 2, 0. And also the y-intercept at 0, negative 4. Then for the purple graph, the y-intercept I can read off, it's the q value which is 1, so the y-intercept will be at 0, 1. It doesn't have any no x-intercepts. Doesn't have any x-intercepts because it's a smiley graph that moved up. We can see clearly on the graph that it doesn't have any x-intercepts. Okay, then number F. For number F, I first did a table to help me draw it. Okay, so if I look at the equation, I can start imagining it's going to be a sad graph that moved up. So it's going to look something like that. Okay. So I'm going to have x-intercepts. First I put all those x values into the x of the equation, and then I get my y value 0, 7, 8, 7, 0, and I draw them. The x-intercepts and the y-intercept, and I make a curve with arrows at the ends, and I write down the equation. Y is equal to negative a half x squared plus 8. And then they are asking for the y-intercept. Remember, I can just read that off, and that will be at 0, 8. And for the x-intercepts, I'm going to set y equal to 0. So that's 0 is equal to negative a half x squared plus 8. First I multiply the whole thing by negative 2, then I get 0 is equal to x squared minus 16. Then I factorize that and I get x minus 4, x plus 4, so x is 4. or x is negative 4. So the two coordinates will be 4, 0 and negative 4, 0. Okay, put that onto my graph, 4, 0 and negative 4, 0. Now I have a complete graph. And that's it for today, and that's it for the sketching of a parabola. If you have any questions, please email your teacher.